If I were to ask you what you believe the key to evangelism in the 21st century is or will be, what would you say? If we're going to fulfill the Great Commission right here in Tallahassee, in North America, in 21st century post-Christian America, what is the key to evangelism? Is it going to be like we saw in generations past with stadiums full of people, evangelistic speakers? Is it going to be walking along the sidewalks and distributing tracts? Is it going to be door to door, knocking on doors, door to door to share the gospel? While each of those methods and contexts and venues were very viable in decades past, and they might be viable in certain contexts in the future, I would submit to you that the number one key, the key to evangelism in this century is hospitality. If we are going to be effective in winning the lost around us, it will be through our hospitality. This morning we continue our series, FamilyVision, and we're talking about leaving a legacy of hospitality. If we're going to leave a legacy of hospitality in our family, like we've talked about the last 2 weeks with prayer and the Word of God, if we're going to leave a legacy of hospitality in our family and with our children, we must be actively involved in hospitality and ministering to others through our hospitality. Now, hospitality, like evangelism, let me separate those two for just a moment, are spiritual gifts. My wife has the gift of hospitality. I'm along for the ride, but I do enjoy it, okay? There are people that have that extra dose of evangelism, that gift. But it doesn't excuse the rest of us from not evangelizing. We still have the Great Commission that is relative, that's relevant. It is a command to all of us that we will share the gospel of Jesus Christ with all the peoples of the world. There are some that are just more gifted. And hospitality is similar. So there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about whether or not we're going to be hospitable and have a ministry of hospitality in and through out of our home. That's what we're going to look at this morning. So what is hospitality? If we were to go around the room right now, we would all define it or describe it pretty similarly probably, but we would really center around fellowship most likely. And we would be thinking of friends and family and just the fellowship around the table, and rightly so. What I want to show us this morning is a much more specific meaning of the word hospitality. So the Greek word for hospitality in the New Testament is this, philoxenia, which means love for outsiders. It's very simple. And we saw in Hebrews, we're going to care for the saints and we're going to love the outsider. So it's very simple, but also very beautiful. Now, the word outsiders is not derogatory. It is merely descriptive. This is not meant to be an insult to anybody not within our realm or not within our family or not within the family of the church. It is just descriptive, as in outsiders that are not members of our family, or better yet in this context, outsiders that are not members of the family of God. People outside of the faith. Hospitality is welcoming others into our hearts and lives. And if there is anything that this world needs right now, after 15 months of social distancing and masking and just separation, don't get together, we need hospitality. That hospitality is a stewardship of my salvation from God unto others. Who do we show that hospitality to? And again, it comes right out of the definition, but biblically we can read that hospitality is two-pronged, if you will. It is in care for the saints, and it is in love for the outsiders. However, as important as that is, as important as the Christian fellowship is, and caring for the saints, the original meaning of hospitality reveals the significance or the priority of loving outsiders, hospitality among those that are outside of our normal realm, our normal circles of life. So that's what hospitality means. Like we saw, it's loving outsiders, specifically those outside of the faith. Matt Chandler writes, pastor of the Village Church in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, yes, eat with your small group. Invite your family over, your good friends. But remember that hospitality is to give loving welcome to those outside of your normal circle of friends. It is opening your life and your house to those who believe differently than you do. Let me show you some statistics from around the United States and Tallahassee, for that matter, around the world. First of all, there are 80 million displaced people in the world. They have been forced out of their home, and they are either internally displaced within their home country, or they have had to flee their country and are displaced internationally. Whether they're immigrants, refugees. Over 1 million international students study in the United States nationwide. Right here in Tallahassee, we have 2,500 international students studying at Florida State from 130 different countries. We have opportunities to entertain, to reach internationals right here in Tallahassee that will one day have influence around the world. But look at this. In a study a few years ago, it was found that half of international students studying in the United States have zero American friends. More than half indicated they have zero American friends. More than 80% of international students studying in the United States go through 4 years of college and are never invited into the home of an American. Where are these students over Thanksgiving break, over spring break, over Christmas break? Most of them are on campus, isolated, alone. So they're never invited to American's home, much less the Christian home. And these same students cited the reason is that Americans have little or no interest in other cultures. So that's the what is hospitality and the who of hospitality, but why? Why do we love strangers? And I would say that hospitality as strategy, if you will. Now, I want to be very careful here, because people are not ministry projects. You don't need to be looking around going, all right, who's my project? You need to be looking around for relationships, because we were created for relationships. We were created for community, and then as a Christian community, we are commanded then to love and care for strangers, those outsiders. But it is through relationships that we share the love of Jesus. It is through relationships that we share the gospel, and that sharing, that building and sharing happens around the table. It happens through relationship. But the truth is, people are lonely, and maybe more lonely today than they were 18 months ago, and they feel unloved, maybe more so than they did just a year ago. People are searching for meaning and purpose in their lives, in their work, in relationships, everything. Hospitality makes strangers neighbors. And hospitality among neighbors leads to family, followers of Jesus. But it begins with relationship. Therefore, we can care for, love, and bring hope to those who don't have the hope of Christ. And we do that through hospitality. We invite and welcome unbelievers into our space. in order to bring Jesus into theirs.